I remember feeling so jealous that he had like a real body of work. He had like he had films that he did when he was this age, and a film he did this age, and he's the lead, and like, you know, like maybe his kids watch this. Mm-hmm. There's a body of work there. I was like, what's my body of work? 2,000 Vimeo tapes? Yeah, like what are my kids gonna watch? Right. David Garelik Ryan scene 1.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
David Garelik is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Do you have a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new role?
I think, okay, so first we read. We read and we start to, sometimes you can start to feel things. I mean, things start to come up naturally. You start to get instincts about certain things. And I don't necessarily think about it this way, but my acting teacher, Sheila, would say that Philip Seymour Hoffman would make a list of ways that he was like the character and ways that he was unlike the character. And the ways that you're like the character, clearly you don't have to work on. The ways that you're not like the character, that's the things that need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. Like ultimately to me, it's like technique or tools are for when you need them.
Yeah. So
realistically, I read and try to start to sense and feel. And I also oftentimes find that the more I read it and read it out loud with people, the more I can start to feel into it and get a sense of where stuff lives in me. And also what needs to be addressed, I think, as well. So I don't start to weigh myself down with like personalization or specific choices. Definitely not as a first step. I mean, things might come up.
Yeah.
Things might intuitively come up, but I think I like to remove like the pressure of needing to make decisions and just start to read and sense.
Yeah.
And feel. To me, like I think a lot about drives, like what characters want. And sometimes they're really evident and clear, and sometimes they're not. Mm. And my feeling is that this is so not the question you asked. This definitely is not how I just start thinking about it. But I think it's worth considering like the humanistic, deep-seated hole in the character's soul that they're looking to fill. Mm. And I think that is at the core of the drive.
Yes.
And that's, to me, I think, is the through line.
Does every character have that?
I think they have to. I think that a lot of times it's not clear.
Yeah.
But my feeling is that people sometimes, I mean, we've talked about this before, like I've gotten into debates with people who I like really respect about like, well, people don't know what they want. People don't, not everyone understands their drives and goals. And I think that's valid. But the conundrum is that like, if you're not consciously aware of what you want, you can be sure that your body is. Your body's going for something. If you're not aware of what you're doing, your body is. Yeah. Like your body, like there's, Yeah. Me and you right now, like I'm talking to you as a friend, but there's also like things that I need, ways that I want to be perceived.
Right.
If you're playing like a larger part, there's no point in the scene being there if you don't end the scene in a different place than where you started. Mm-hmm. There's just no point. Mm-hmm. Like what's the point of telling a story where nothing changes?
Yes. So are you saying that if it's not apparent that there is a change, that you have to make one?
Only if you want the scene to be interesting.
Because it could be that you are in a badly written script.
Sure.
But you're saying that you can actually make it better if you do what you just said.
100%. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also think like it's very clear sometimes when you're serving plot. Mm-hmm. the task is to like, how do we make this about the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
So that we're not just communicating plot points, we're making this about the relationship with the person we're in the scene with.
Mm-hmm.
And in that dynamic, something has to shift in the relationship, in the scene. It's not that it has to. I mean, no, I don't think anyone's going to pull you aside, and no director well, maybe not no director, but I don't think someone's going to pull you aside and be like, look, the relationship has to change. Like, they're concerned about story beats.
Yeah.
They're concerned about communicating information.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about like, I mean, look, I'm trying to build a career. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't had that many shots.
Yeah.
Like, when I get something, like, I want people to go like, I'm sorry, who's that?
Yeah.
And so maybe someone else can throw away scenes, but I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
You have to make that work. Yeah.
I just don't have an overabundance of them.
Right. Right.
And ideally I always feel that way. But like, when I book a job, it's not just a job.
Yeah.
It's like a chance for it to hopefully do something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Take me back to why you even wanted to start to do this. When did this start to become a thing that you wanted to take seriously?
For the longest time, I told the story that I moved to New York when I was 19 because, like, I was very unhappy in college. I went to UMass Amherst, and I had this feeling of like, what the fuck? Like, I just felt so much dread at the idea of spending 4 years in this like high rise in Western Massachusetts in this dorm building.
Mm-hmm.
And New York felt impossible to me. Like, I'm from a Russian immigrant family. Acting is like it's like banking on winning the lottery. Like, your career plan is to win the lottery. It never occurred to me as a thing. I never wanted to act. I never thought about acting as a kid. I actually think my parents suggested that I try theater, and I was like, no.
That's a new one. Your parents kind of pushing you
they weren't
that.
pushing. They weren't pushing, but I think they were like, because I like doing like accents, and I was shy, but I wanted the right kind of attention.
Yeah.
I didn't just want attention. I wanted the right kind of attention. Mm-hmm. And when I was at UMass, halfway through my sophomore year, I just decided I'm not coming back. So I called my best friend, Jordan, and I was like, I'm moving to New York. And he was like, all right, do it. And I didn't come back.
Wow.
And I didn't go to New York to act. I think I went to New York because it felt impossible. Uh-huh. And I knew that I wanted to try acting, but I also had no idea what acting was at all. Had never acted. So I didn't know there was skill. I didn't know there was technique. I thought acting was like, I don't know, like meeting the right people and like, you know, how to win friends and influencing people. And maybe in some respects it is, but that's all that I thought it was.
Yeah.
And when I got to New York, I think what I really had going for me was like, I didn't know this shit was supposed to be hard. Like, I thought that like the hard part was getting in the rooms. So in some ways, like how naive I was, like really helped me, because I was banging my head on a lot of fucking doors. And when people so I got to New York, I sat in a Starbucks in Union Square, I Googled acting classes. I don't know the difference between acting classes and improv. I ended up in an improv class at the Magnet.
Oh.
There was a porn star in my class the first day. I was like, New York is wild.
Okay. How'd you know it was a porn star?
Because she was very open about it.
Okay. Because you're a good boy, so you didn't know.
To be honest, I thought I actually had a shot with her until she got very, very sexual with me in a scene, and my 19-year-old self could not handle it. I wilted fully. Yeah, so I was like, well, New York is wild. But I asked the teacher after class, I was like, what should I do? Like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Where should I go? What should I do? How do I meet people? And he pointed me in the direction of like one of those casting director pay-to-meets. He was like, well, you pay money, you meet casting directors. I was like, great, I'm about to be famous.
What do you think about that answer now, looking back? It's not such a bad answer, right?
Well, my feeling now is, my real feeling is that, like, look, if you really stand out, if you're truly elite, or some version of elite, and you get in front of agents, you get in front of casting directors, I don't think there's any world where they see someone who's like incredible and they go like, actually, no, this is a pay to meet.
Right. Yeah.
Also, like, the reality is that I got my first agent through a commercial agent night. And we kind of, an agency called Henderson Hogan, and they were trying to start a commercial division. And I didn't know, like, commercial agent, theatrical agent, I didn't know fucking anything.
Yeah.
So I met this guy, and he was like, look, I can't bring you on, but we can do something called hip pocketing, which basically means, like, he'll, like, add me on as an attachment. Like, he's not representing me, but every once in a while, he'll, like, get me an audition. And, but he also started to, like, give me advice. Like, I would ask him, like, what classes should I take? What this should I do? All this kind of stuff. And he would just kind of guide me. He would, like, tell me where to go. Like, actually, he was the one who suggested the woman who became really my acting teacher, Sheila. Like, he's the one who pointed me in her direction. And then maybe 6 months into that kind of mentor type friendship, the other agent at the company was doing a pay to meet. And I was like, look, do you think it's time that maybe I get in front of this guy and just do a scene? And my friend Tom, who was the one who I mentioned, like, he was like, yeah, I think this is the right time. And I did the scene and they signed me. So, like, to me, it's like, I mean, it's a bummer to like have to pay money to meet people.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, if you stand out, you stand out.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But getting back to your question, like, when I started to act and when I started going to those pay to meets, it became very clear very quickly that I didn't know how to fucking act. But, like, point blank period. I went to a class at the Barrow Group. I think one of my very first classes I ever took was at the Barrow Group. And I remember the first time I watched an actor just read lines as, like, a cold read.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I was like, how does she know how to say it? How does she know she's saying the lines like a real person? How does she know? It was mesmerizing. I could not believe how far ahead she was than me. I was like, what do you mean? You can just scan a text and say lines believably? Impossible.
That's so great.
So then when I got to, eventually I ended up at Sheila's, and I saw shit in that class that, like, my first class, there were these girls doing, like, an improv scene from True Blood, the HBO show. I didn't know people could just cry. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that people could be so invested playing fucking vampires. I didn't know that I didn't know.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a mystical experience. I was like, I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah.
To me, I saw that and I was like, I think this is better than anything I've ever seen on TV. And this is in a church basement.
But wait. What was in you, though, that wanted to do this? Because if you didn't even know, like, it sounds like you didn't even have a moment where you were transformed by acting.
Not yet.
Right?
Not yet.
That you were seing.
Not yet.
So what was it that really made you want to do it, though?
I think that I think that a large part of me felt unseen.
Oh, okay.
And I felt like I was gonna show them.
In a way, this is a good motivator. And then you're laying on top of it this naivete about everything. And it's your eyes are open. So you have this drive of wanting to be the right kind of attention. And then not understanding any aspect, like, so you're able to, like,
well, I think
a foundation is being able to lay on top.
I think that some of, like, a person's deepest, like, or not deepest, some of a person's most vain egoic desires.
Yeah.
In the pursuit of them, they fall away, and, like, true meaning reveals itself.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So, like, that was, I mean, acting has transformed my life. I mean, acting is like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But none of that would have happened if I didn't have this, like, seed of, like, exactly. I'm special, please. Exactly. I'm gonna be acknowledged for it at some point.
You have to get up there then, right? Because you're in the class, or you just watch it.
Yes, yeah, I have to get up there.
So talk about that. Like,
I had this monologue prepared.
Uh-huh.
And first class, you could do a monologue, and I thought I did a really good job, prepared really well, and she was like, "What is this?" I mean, she was tough. I was, she's a powerful, tough teacher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it just became apparent that what I saw people do, I could not do. And I remember the feeling was like, my feeling was like, if this person can deliver me to that, like I think I'm ready to. I mean, I'm committed. Like I'm gonna. If there's a contract, I'm signing it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Also, like I moved to New York.
Yeah.
I guess this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, but those first couple of years were like very uncomfortable. It's like what I was telling you about my class. Like, if there's not a reason you're there, it's fucking torture.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't hide from your own blocks. You can't hide from your own insecurities.
Right.
You feel insecure about it in life, try doing it on stage.
Right. Right.
To be scrutinized.
Right.
And
so was your ass handed to you in a good way? You know, it sounds like you were going to get your ass kicked, and that might be good.
Look, it depends what you call a good way. I mean, I think it was.
It must have been a good way because you're an actor.
Well, it was. Yes. I mean, I'm incredibly happy how, but good. I mean, good way is a good way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it
didn't break you, is what I mean. I guess
it didn't break me, but the process was about like. I mean, there were like several years. I mean, a couple years where like I was nervous to go to class for sure because I knew I was going to be. Low level eviscerated.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do, and by that point, I had naively gotten an agent. Like I was theoretically, not super frequently, but getting some shots. And one of my bigger epiphanies, it was the winter. I was looking for a new apartment. I must have been like, I think I was probably like 23. I'd been in class for maybe 4 years, something like that. And one of the assistants or two of the assistants couldn't come back, and she asked me. She was like, "Can you come on and assist? Are you interested? Do you want to do it?" And I remember the feeling of like, this is going to be really uncomfortable, but if you commit to this, if you're assisting 2 classes a week, something will happen. And that's what I did.
And did something happen?
I mean, it still took like. I mean, one thing is that I was now kind of responsible for being one of the people who commented on scenes. So I had to, that was also like a thing.
Yeah.
Like actually like understanding what's going on in the scene.
Right.
But if I were to fast forward to like really like when the shift happened, to me, it was like, I started to feel like there was a period of, like at first I was like, I'm not good. I don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
I just felt like not having the language or the tools or the anything to arrive at this place that I saw people at. And then there came a point when I started to get a little bit, I started to develop like a little chip on my shoulder. I started to feel like, well, all of these people in class, like, I'm sorry, but they grew up in artistic families. They grew up with an emotional language. They grew up like communicating emotionally. I did not. I was a really... like a sensitive, fragile kid, and my grandfather was like, "This does not work," and he stuck me in wrestling. So my whole upbringing was about suppressing fear and shutting down emotion, and like I had my body would shut down emotion, whereas a lot of the people that I saw in class, like, come on, you're not
at the ready,
like your parents are artists,
So you had some digging out to do that other people didn't.
Yeah, but I started to feel like, well, they do this thing, they can do this thing, but I can do another thing.
Yeah.
And in the scene, when we lock eyes, me and you will both know what's happening. And I started to feel like this. I started to feel like a sense of my own power, like my own trust in myself. That like, this is not for the teacher, this is not for anybody in class, this is for me and you in the scene. And we're gonna know what's happening. And I still think that like, to me, the most exciting part of acting is when you forget that you're acting.
Yeah.
When you forget that you're acting and they forget that you're acting. And part of my, like when I teach, sometimes also, like a lot of times I'll go with a new person. And part of the reason that I'm doing that is I'm trying to hook them so hard that they can relax and realize that we're not acting.
Yeah.
We're doing this for real.
Yeah.
Look, I remember when I did this I did this Lifetime movie like 5 years ago, and I had some scenes with Tammy Blanchard, and I remember the first time I acted with her, it was like jarring how it's like a different dimension of reality. Like, this is not pretend.
Yeah.
It feels different.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, to me, like I don't think it can always happen, but to me, that's what I'm after.
That's what you strive for.
Like, I really want the experience.
Yeah.
Do you know who Conor McGregor is? Conor McGregor is an MMA fighter.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that
when
guy.
He was coming up, he was doing things that we all thought were impossible. He was knocking people out in like 7 seconds who'd never been touched. He was calling the shots that were like impossible. And he had this, I would watch Conor McGregor interviews for motivation. I mean, genuinely. I would sit at Whole Foods in Tribeca in the morning and watch Conor McGregor interviews for motivation. Maybe I shouldn't admit that. But he has this quote, he says, you got to think of yourself some kind of way. Why not think of yourself as the best to ever do it?
It's actually a great quote.
You got to think of yourself, you got to have some kind of self-concept.
That might as well be that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that something in me shifted.
Yeah. So then did the shift though then mean that you were finding yourself auditioning for more things and getting called back?
No. That took many more years. Many more years.
Okay.
We're like 40 minutes into the interview. Get to the real shifts. Enough with your class.
No. This is interesting. This is interesting. The shift happens, and you are just...
The shift in acting happens.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you are growing in this class, though, because of this. And so it's not like you were. It wasn't represented in jobs yet.
No.
But there was a growth that was keeping you invested.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was an environment that was incredibly daunting, where now people would come up to me after class, and I was the one. And I mean, I'm like 5-6 years in at this point. But also, this is like, she was my first real teacher. Like, to me, it's like end all be all. Like, there is no other place.
Yeah.
So this was like, I mean, that basement is like my gym, my kingdom, like the most meaning for me because it took so long, and now like it's mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like full freedom. Conor McGregor has another quote. he's early on, a lot of interviewers asked them, like, how do you handle pressure so well? Like, you're so loose, you're so relaxed. How do you do it? And he said, I swear to God, as I'm walking to the cage, it feels like the chains are coming off and I can finally be free.
That's not helpful, though, is it?
Yeah.
How could that be helpful?
It's reframing. That's how I saw auditioning too.
Do you go through the process of seeing the chains?
No.
So
it's a mindset. It's like, you think, like, we see acting as like, when we act, man, I'm nervous. I got to do a thing. It's so tight. It's so, and when I audition, like, I got to remember, I got to say it like this.
Yeah.
And bro, fighting is life and death. If a man can be at his freest fighting, I think I can walk into an audition room.
Yeah.
Like, it just gives you like a sense of, to me, it gave me a sense of permission. Like, if we're talking about stakes, I'm sorry, but an audition is not the same as a fight.
Right.
But yet, I mean, why does it? I mean, it doesn't feel the same. But there's a similarity to it. Like, for many years, I mean, you asked when I started getting callbacks. I started getting callbacks when I started to feel free in audition rooms.
Yes.
Like, I started to think about how I wanted them to feel in the audition.
Yeah.
What I wanted the reader to feel at the end of my lines. It wasn't exactly like actioning lines, but like, bro, if I'm seducing, let's do it for real.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to, I want you to, are we acting or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're threatening, the same thing. If you're asking, the same thing. Like, let's hook on to something real. If you hook on to something real and you make it real, you forget about, but like, it's an audition and like, I gotta say it like this.
Yeah.
And like, it just becomes like people sorry to keep referencing my class, but like, the question often comes up is like, I'm trying to get out of my head.
Yeah.
what I worked on was getting out of my head. How do you work on getting out of your head? You work on getting out of your head by being specific.
Yeah.
Not by working on getting out of your head.
Right. What was the breakthrough that just got you more auditions? Not the breakthrough in the class that made you kind of...
Do you know the answer to this?
What?
Do you know the answer to this question?
No.
Okay. I did this.
Do you think I knew the answer and I was just asking it?
Well, sometimes, yeah. We've talked.
Oh wait, I don't remember.
Well, maybe I haven't told you.
Yeah, I don't know.
One of the more miraculous things that's ever happened to me was I did this when I was with Henderson Hogan. I auditioned for this Vimeo series. I was nervous as hell to do, and I told myself, I was like, if I do this, let's really commit. Let's really invest. I'm not sure if it's going to be good, but I cannot be bad in something that is bad.
Yeah.
I did this thing, and a year later, they screened the first 3 episodes. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, holy shit, it's good, and I'm bad in it. And I completely like put that out of my mind. I was like, I can't think about this anymore. About a couple months later, I wake up in the morning with a Facebook friend request from like a very big manager. Someone who like, I was also like, I knew everyone. Like I knew what agents were where. Like I just knew these things.
Yeah.
So I knew who this was. I was like, interesting. Then I get a message from him, and he's like, hey, I saw you in this thing. This is the company that I'm with. If you ever want to talk, I'm happy to help as a fan. I think you're talented. I was like, this is crazy. But I also had like, who knows what this is? Who knows what the situation is? New York is wild.
Yeah.
We ended up getting coffee. Nothing but professional. And they signed me. Off of, and I remember that taught me the point of like, you never know who's watching.
And you don't know what's good. Watching. Well, you don't know what's good.
That fourth, I mean, I don't know about those first 3. In the 4th episode, I have some scenes that are like interesting, I gotta say. And I did some interesting stuff in it. But I remember like, because I've had a lot of, since then, before then, a lot of people have passed on me. I've had a lot of rejections. But I remember that experience taught me that like, you never know who's watching. Like him signing me from that show, to me is like a one in a, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an impossibility what happened. So yeah, when I get into low points, I mean, you just never know who's watching.
Right.
And people at the top sometimes are watching everything.
Were you developing then at this time, because of all this training, was it actually preparing you practically for like a set?
First off, can I just say that I fell in love with acting watching Peaky Blinders. Before that show, I think I decided to be an actor. I made a decision. When I was watching that show, it was the first show where I would rewind scenes to see like actually who's playing what. What are they playing? Because it seems like nothing's happening, but actually everything's happening. What's going on? So I started to analyze these things, and I think I think I stylistically started to. I was like, I like that. Yeah. That's interesting to me. Like not every like me and one of my close friends, like we disagree on our favorite actors very vehemently. Like completely disagree. Yeah. Not every style is for everyone, clearly. Yeah. But I think I started to understand what I liked. And I think one of the probably the gifts that I have is I think if I'm conscious of a person's qualities that I like, I can kind of absorb them. Or at least then that's what I was trying to do. And in sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. The first, I mean, when I was in New York, I started booking maybe once every year and a half, some kind of co-star in my like mid-20s, but I never got callbacks. I moved to LA when I was like 25. And that's when I started to feel really, really confident as an actor. Because of class and because of, I mean, the other kind of great thing about a class was that sometimes like well-known actors would come in. Talented,
Yeah.
well-known actors would come in. So you get a workout in with someone that you watch.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel like, well, I'm in a scene with them.
Yeah.
Like, who they're on TV.
Yeah.
Why aren't I on TV?
Right. Pull your weight with this person, like
Yeah.
Was there a way in LA that you were keeping this going, keeping your feet wet in class?
Well, actually, the thing is, in LA, some of the most important teachers I ever had were in LA.
Oh.
Yeah. I when I got to LA, I had a meeting with an agency that acted like they were going to sign me, and then they passed. But that agent set me up with, I think as a consolation, she set me up with this general with a casting director. And I asked the casting director, I was like, when English theater actors come to LA, who do they train with? Because in my mind, I was like obsessed with Tom Hardy. I was obsessed with Michael Fassbender. I was obsessed with Cillian Murphy. Like, I was like, if they were me, where would they go?
Yeah.
And he pointed me in the direction of this woman, Jeannie Hackett. I had never worked with we'd work, obviously there was scene study class, but we never focused on text. Jeannie was gonna direct Long Day's Journey into Night at the Geffen. I think from the jump, she kind of wanted me to understudy. I think she just saw that I cared and that I was really driven.
Yeah.
And we started working on Long Day's Journey into Night, and it quickly became completely apparent to me that I had no idea what to do with text whatsoever.
Interesting.
It became abundantly clear that, like,
But doesn't everybody hit that with O'Neill? Where it's like, whoa!
yeah, but that's how you learn. If the thing with that part, Edmund, is on paper, it looks like he's very passive. You can't play that. It doesn't, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
How do you make that active? This is like how you actually, for me, what do I do?
Right.
So I ended up actually understudying that play at the Geffen. And Alfred Molina played, what the fuck is the dad's name? But what I noticed about him immediately was his vocal variance. He didn't say, there was no, like, if I'm talking to you and I'm reading a page, it could be the most compelling information ever. If I'm just talking like this, after about a minute, you're going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But he had pages and pages. His vocal variance was so clear. The specificity was so clear. He was high, he was low, he was fast, he was slow, it was everything.
Yeah.
You never got tired of listening to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was trying to approach this, like, back then I was trying to approach this like Kobe Bryant. How does he think about it differently? And that became clear to me. I started studying with this voice teacher named Rowena Balos. And she really became my text analysis teacher. She taught me so much. She taught me so much. It's like, I'm sorry, can I just say?
Absolutely.
I just said, she taught me so much. She taught me so much. Imagine this was a play. She taught me so much. She taught me so much. Rowena taught me that. I say, she taught me so much, but the second she taught me so much is a completely different thought.
And I saw the differences in what you were just saying. You know what I mean? When you said it.
Of course.
So
and the second thought only happens because of the first thought.
Yes.
But we love going, she taught me so much, she taught me so much. But human beings have an idea, have a thought, and then they breathe, and a second thought comes to them.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know. I mean, I just believed in myself. Like, I really believed in myself. I thought that if I got up on stage, I wanted to get up on stage so badly. There was the guy that I was understudying, his name is Colin Waddell. The God on the Street he was amazing, genuinely amazing in the part. But I one time I literally came up to him and I was like, bro, like, please.
Can you give me one?
Yeah. He was like, wait, really? Like, I'm not gonna do that.
That's amazing.
He didn't give me any attitude. He was just like, I don't know what you want me to say. I just like. But I literally asked him.
Amazing.
Yeah, I remember it was but that was a hard time in life. I had this Alexander teacher, and one time he asked me about like how auditions were going or something, and I just started crying because I felt like I was working so hard.
Yeah.
And I was so committed to this.
Yeah.
And I felt like nobody knew.
Yeah.
And the pressure built up, like, because people around me, people in class, like, I was the guy. But if I was the guy, how come nobody gave a fuck?
Yeah. It's almost worse than not being the guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pressure was intense.
Yeah. Wow.
But it got me to the point where like I was ready to have some like really honest conversations. And I needed that. And that was like a kind of a real turning point.
And let's just say that guy did give you one, right? He's like, you know what? I'm going to call in sick.
Yeah.
Would you have been ready?
Yeah. Dude, 100%.
I love that.
I was on a different, like, to me, like, the other understudies, it was like, we're understudies. Like, to me, it was like, bro, if I approached this in like the way that I saw it was like, so I wrestled my whole life, right? In wrestling, everybody goes, like the top guys, everybody goes to like off-season camps. Everybody does all this shit. Everybody goes to all these tournaments. And guys are like mean and aggressive and strong. And at the top, it's like, they're all kind of at the same level.
Yeah.
And yet, there's a couple guys that mop them.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
To me, it means that they're thinking about it differently.
Yes.
There must be something that they're doing differently for that to exist.
Right.
So I always thought, like, how do I do this differently?
Yeah.
And back then, I was really dedicated to that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, man, like, if you give me a shot, like, you're not going to be able to fucking get rid of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I,
so what changed? What changed? What changed?
Well, you want to be really honest?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, the next chapter is I got really situated with a great manager at the company. I got an agent. I started auditioning a lot. I started to get pinned for stuff, but I wasn't booking. It had been like a couple, almost two. I got this movie Waves. My part got cut down. I thought I was going to do something. It really kind of didn't. But I started to, because of the representation, I started to audition a lot more, but I wasn't booking. And then the pandemic happened. And then I started to feel really like, started to get this feeling of, who am I doing this for? And I'm waiting to be selected by who?
Right.
Like your whole life is about being selected. Your whole life is like, I'll do anything to get the part. Really? Maybe because of where I was in life, my age, and also other variables, it started to feel like I cannot sell my everything in me waiting and hoping. And also the idea was like, there's a lot of stuff that I just don't agree with. Like, part of the reason I love the pod with Ryan is part of that is like, I'm gonna say whatever the fuck I want so that anybody who needs someone who plays by the books and doesn't say the wrong thing, like, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
You should know. Like, listen to the podcast. You should know.
Yeah.
So I started to feel like, who are the people whose approval I need, and what am I willing to do for it? And I started to feel like, if that's the game, I don't want to play anymore. And I started to entertain the fact that, like, maybe this shit's not, I'm not doing this shit anymore.
That's probably a good place to be.
Yeah, right? It was. And the real turning point, if you're asking the question of when did I start booking, I started booking 3 years ago. And I started booking, I think, largely because of this man, JJ Perez. And the way this happened was I think, helping my friend Juliet with something. And Juliet was Sheila's assistant in my very first acting class. I've known her for like more than a decade. She's an amazing actor. And she was like, I just started taking class with this guy. He's different. And I was like, I've never heard her. Like, that's like high praise. And she was like, he's really teaching auditioning different. And I started taking class with him. And like, like when you hear truth, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to absorb this man's technique. Like, I need to understand. I started to get privates with him for stuff that I knew I wasn't even right for, just so I could have more access to like understand how he thinks about these things. And the results, to be honest, I started to casting directors became fans like quickly. I didn't have that before.
Interesting.
I always was very jealous about like, I always go in for this. I've been in 8 times for this. Like, really? I haven't been in 8 times for fucking anything. Yeah, like it's. I mean,
So then they kept calling you back in for things.
yeah, and I could just like pins started happening regularly, and also I started booking. I started booking, and then I went to Mexico. For I got really tired of New York, man. I got tired of everybody in this fucking city. You want me to talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I went through it. I really went through a thing, and
What was the problem?
I just felt like an outsider and a lot of issues back to back to back to back, and a lot of people that were close to me weren't there. And also, like, everything was on tape, and I was like, I don't need to be here.
Yeah. So what did that time away give you?
I called my manager, so I don't want to audition anymore.
Wow.
I said, if they don't ask for me specifically,
I want offers only.
nah, but like if a cast director's like, yo, we really like David, he's really right.
Yeah.
Can you please do it? Then of course.
Yeah.
But like, don't send me. Like, I'm not doing this fucking like guest star. I'm like, my career's not gonna be made this way. I'm not. I don't want to play this game. And my manager was like, okay.
Yeah.
But nothing dried up.
Wow.
It was so strange.
So you were doing what you needed for yourself, both getting away and then also making a demand about the way you were approaching the idea of yourself as a commodity.
I was trying to understand what game I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand what my version of the game was. And I wanted to define the rules for myself. So I understood if I was winning or losing.
Right.
Because it felt like I would get stuff and it would feel like I lost.
Interesting. See, to me, this is really healthy, it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I was pushed to I guess I was ready to. That's when I started working with JJ. He was like, look, if you just trust me. I was like, dog, you don't need to give me the spiel. No, I don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks about me. There's no cast director knows me at this point.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody that like I have to do it this way. This just doesn't exist to me.
Yeah.
I'm ready for anything. Give me the wildest shit. Like, I'll do it just to see.
Yeah.
Just to yeah. I was like, I'm gonna stand and see.
So you're saying it didn't dry up, but were you getting fulfillment in the stuff that you were doing?
I wasn't working. Like, the thing is, I wasn't like, I mean, look, if I'm to be totally honest, this is what the past 3 years have looked like for me. During the pandemic, I got the ABC showcase, which is like, I don't know if you know this, but like, as a straight white man, it's fucking very hard for anyone, but as a straight white man, it's like, what the fuck are you doing here? So that was another thing. Like, my manager, like, dude, if I got this is incredible. This is like a 1 in a bazillion chance. So, but it felt like my pandemic was kind of it wasn't exactly a job, but it was something that had some kind of esteem behind it. Then I think I got the Blacklist. I booked while I was in Portugal. I did a tape in Portugal. Yeah, bro, I was like, I'm not living in fucking New York. For what? So I can make tapes? Then I got close on some stuff. Then I got 2 episodes of FBI. Then I got, the past year, I would say, I started getting parts that I was like, this is what I want to do. This past spring, I did like this West Virginia coal mining movie. It was like, I mean, you got to realize, like, I love Sam Shepard. I love Shanley.
Yeah.
The fear when you're a guy like me in your 20s, the fear is like, are you always going to be a boy? Will anybody ever see you as a man? Well, in the West Virginia movie, like, yeah. So that was the first thing that I was like, okay, I'm playing the thing that I wanted to play. And then I did this play at WP, a 2-hander at WP. And to me, WP, I hold in like very high regard.
Yeah.
And getting that play to me was like, well, holy fuck. Like, I wanted to do New York theater my whole life. To me, that's like, that's acting. Like, that's where you prove yourself. When I got that play, I was like, man, I think it's starting to happen.
How was the person you were playing opposite in that?
Malika Samuel. She's amazing. She's amazing. An amazing actor, an amazing collaborator, and just, I mean, this is my first real play. Malika's been doing theater her whole life. Everybody, like, I know everybody was a little bit nervous about me. Like, the fact that they cast me is like...
Were you nervous?
Hell no. Nah, because I know...
That's what's up.
No, man. I mean, I was nervous to walk on stage. Of course, I was nervous to walk on stage.
I'm not even talking about
that. I wasn't like, can I do this? No.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, the thing is, I believe in myself. But Malika was like, stage right, stage left. The director was like, stage right. And Malika would like nudge me with her elbow.
I love that. So when you auditioned for Criminal Minds, did you know it was going to be a multi-episode thing? You knew it. Had you already auditioned for Criminal Minds before? No. Did they know about you though?
No.
Wow. So
I don't think anyone knows about me.
no, but you know what I mean? Like you were saying, like people were pinning you and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
the
what I
thing
mean.
is that Criminal Minds is a fully LA show. That I lied. I said that I lived in LA.
Okay.
I did it. I be fraudulent. Your boy be fraudulent.
That's what you got to do. So what was the secret of landing that?
Just having the sauce. No. Nah, I mean, I think that I have started to get like, it feels like if it's like a bad guy part or white trash part, I get a callback right book.
How many were these before you were paired with Liana?
I had a initial audition. The cast director is April Webster, I think. She was really lovely to me. We talked about Jeannie, my teacher in LA. She's a theater lady. She read with me. She gave me a great read, but also like, I mean, I do very well in physical audition scenes because I think about them physically in a way that I think not everybody is trained to. So when I get a physically complex scene, I go like, this works in my benefit.
Well, a lot of people, especially on tape, don't know what to do with physical.
Of course not. Of course not.
And
People say it doesn't matter.
Right.
The thing is, it doesn't. You don't have to do what the audition says, but you use your body to tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell it how you want, but we have to be specific.
Do you get wide in your shot?
Wide? What does that mean?
On your self-tape.
Nah. This wasn't a self-tape. It was an audition. And also, I've been getting auditions, and I do them at my kitchen table. I want it to feel like they shouldn't feel like, oh, this actor has great lighting and he's really prepared. He's got a glorious backdrop. I'm like, dude, I'm at my kitchen table. Here's the laptop. We're here in my kitchen. I'm leaning against the wall.
That says so much too. It says like this guy does not need this actually, in a way. You know what I mean? And that's good. He's like putting
fake.
it in. He's fitting it in.
But we fake it. We fake it for it to feel that way.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're placing this kind of idea out there that like, I'm not gonna put my backdrop. I got other stuff to do here. I'm busy.
Yeah, but it's also the ability, like you tell the story while using what's around you. I mean, look, you start leaning on the wall, but you don't stay there, and it tells a story.
Yeah.
And then you lean back.
Yeah.
And then you put your hand like this.
It's life.
And then you lean forward.
It's life.
So you're showing them that you can work specifically, given like you didn't set anything up, you didn't prepare for this.
Yeah.
I'm at my kitchen table. The wall just happened to be there.
Right. And let me tell you what I was seeing in these episodes as somebody who is not necessarily a Criminal Minds fanatic.
Bro, you're a Criminal Minds fanatic. Stop playing. You're not going to be anyone. You're a Criminal Minds fanatic. You're an unsolved.
What I was noticing... What I was noticing is that, and now you got to tell me how you were able to do this. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm biased, but it really feels like you were able to do subtle, nuanced work when everybody else wasn't. I don't know why.
Liana.
And Liana.
Yeah.
Too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But why? How did you, it's not just the role. And because you if you see, and I have seen other bad guys portrayed on this thing, they weren't able to do subtlety like this.
Maybe they didn't want to.
Well, but I would have believed that they were pushed toward bringing it up.
I don't think I'm gonna be honest. I think the show moves too fast for this kind of direction.
That's interesting. So like they were just like, if you're doing it, they're just like, oh wow, he's doing that. Let's move on.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you were able to.
The only episode that I got like this episode 1708.
Yeah.
Like Zach Gilford directed it.
Okay.
And it was like, I mean, it's like a performance heavy episode.
It sure is.
He called me and he was like, it was his first thing that he directed. He was like, look, let's talk about it when we show up. You know, TV moves fast. Let's talk through everything. No surprises.
Yeah.
I'm always here if you want to talk through anything.
Oh, that's cool.
Like he made it performance based. Like that scene with Felicity Huffman.
That's like
that was a play.
That felt like it took 4 days to shoot.
It didn't, but that was truly like Steadicam following like everything.
Yeah.
Many takes. That episode to me felt very different than the other ones.
Yeah. And so, well, let's talk about that scene in particular, because first of all, anytime I see anyone holding a gun to anyone's head since Rust, I always think this is different now, right?
Yeah.
Were you thinking of that? Like you have to hold the gun to her head all day.
Yeah, one thing, man. Not all day, but
that didn't take all day.
I gotta say, Felicity was like, she's an actor. Like she's a let's get in the trenches and do it.
Yeah.
There was a couple takes where like, bro, I lost my head in those not like in a real like not like any kind of like really like I'm gonna do anything, not like that, but like, you know, like you kind of start to hyperventilate. Like a lot of things are flowing through you. Like your eyes start to get watery. Like there was a scene where like drag on her. I was like, she was totally in it.
That's amazing.
She was totally in it. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with her.
So your character goes through an event during the scene, an emotional event.
Yeah.
It felt like you were in command of your character. And it didn't feel like it's going to sound judgmental, what I sometimes see on network shows like this, where it's like, you don't get to see kind of a living character a lot on these shows. It felt like you were like you had the time to present that to us. That's why it was a little shocking to me. Yep. And you were able to do it. And I felt like, wow, this is really great that he's able to show this in a show like this. Yeah.
I mean, that episode to me was like, honestly, that episode to me was like one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've probably ever had working.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, like, I got to do stuff I've never gotten to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like we've talked about. Like I love acting, but like what I love about acting is the experience.
Yeah.
Like there's only so many phone conversations looking off into space that I can take.
Yeah.
But like that episode was like, it's me and Liana. It's me and Felicity.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an experience.
Yeah.
And so I was.
And then, what I mean is like, I guess I would be kind of suspicious going in if I was going to be able to totally be in control of this because of the mechanisms of television. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, it was like a play. It felt like that. And like, I don't normally see that on television like this.
Yeah, dude, thinking back, man, I'm so grateful they gave me that. Like, I remember when I got the call from the showrunner, and I was like, bro, they're killing me off. I know this phone call is about me dying. She left me a voicemail. She's like, hey, call me when you can. I'm like, all right, I'm fucking dead.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I'm so sorry. But she was like, but we wrote you, like, you get to do so much in this episode. And
So you didn't even know going in that you were going to do. Oh.
They don't know.
That's
the
really?
thing too. Oh, you know what I should mention?
That's funny.
I worked with, because I mean, between us, like my feeling was that they were developing Liana's character, and were making me like on paper, he's the bad guy. He's a manipulator. I was like, I'm not playing this. I'm not doing this. And how do we not do it? We do it in between lines.
Wow.
And we do it with behavior in between lines.
You did it.
And
you did that. I actually was thinking the whole time, there are people watching this that love you.
I hope so.
As a character, and don't see this as a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did they let him do this?
But when I got that episode, I was shocked that every seed that me and JJ planted through behavior appeared in that episode. Wow. I was like, and I even learned, so I did in my class, I had everyone improv a scenario from Criminal Minds. And one of my students, Jamie, did an improv based on this, and she blew my fucking mind. And she said what her objective was. Like, I've been very objective. Not objective focused, but I think an objective is really important, especially for something like that.
Yeah.
And the objective that she said, I was like, whoa, I'm taking that. I'm 100% taking that. That's the through line. That's the through line for me. Because if that's not the through line, then what am I? Just a fucking killer?
Right. What was it? Can you say?
Yeah, it was about protecting her and making sure this never happens to anyone like us again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really about protecting her.
Yeah. That's why when she says something at one point, and you say, I forget what it is, and you say something to assure her, it's really real. Like, you don't even have this moment where you're like, this guy's manipulating her or anything. And I think that's great, because there's an impending doom over it, because just what story we're in. Yeah. And so to play it like that was so interesting, and to be not have this muscle twirling shit, like no hint of it. Yeah. That's huge, man. Yeah. That's amazing that you were able to do that.
If I can say also, like, Liana is so like, my feeling was that we were going to be in our own genre of. It's just like the kind of actor she is.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
Yeah, baby, that's what's up. That's what's up.
So, we can spend an entire episode talking about your class and your teaching, but I want to talk about it in one specific way. Okay. Mm-hmm. What does the class, you teaching the class, actually do for you when you're working as an actor?
It reminds me of what I would say to people. It's so interesting. Right now, I find myself, I used to daydream about my own acting. And then when I started teaching, that started to go away, and I started to daydream about what I could say, like what points to make. And now I started daydreaming about working through specific people's problems. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm fascinated with blocks in the body, points of tension in the body that keep an emotion from being fully expressed. The conversation kind of that we had, like, I'm fascinated by staying fully open, fully relaxed, deeply feeling in moments where, normally speaking, we would shut down.
Yeah.
And so I think about, like, when things come up, how do we breathe through it? How do we stay conscious? And how do we release the block in our body so it's no longer a thing? Now I have these blocks. I feel them all the time. Mm-hmm. I feel the feeling from my gut comes up my throat, and it gets caught in my throat, and then I start thinking, and then the feeling dissipates. The block you become aware of the block, and then your mind becomes active, and then the feeling dissipates. But I want to experience the feeling fully. And so the notes that what I'm excited to tell a specific person is also very often the thing that I need to tell myself. And it also, I mean, there was a period of time when like when I started teaching, it was such a relief to feel it, because acting, I mean, like I told you, acting came hard for me. Acting came really hard. And because it came hard, like I thought and I sought out so many different things, and I became so fascinated, and like, I mean, I really invested myself in acting for a decade. And somehow, I invested so hard that I feel like when I teach, I'm kind of free. Like I don't have, like, I remember the first class I taught, I was so nervous to give the scenario. But then when the class started, where I was so free, like no thought, no worries, it just started to come. And then after a couple months, it started to dissipate. And I started to be like, wow, I started to think like, wow, I guess I'm just good, you know? And then class started to feel not so good. And I started to be like, what's happening? And it was because like, you gotta constantly reinvent and constantly be engaged to know what you're bringing to class. Like now, like I have a there's something, like usually I say something at the beginning of class, something that I'm thinking about, something that I'm focusing on, an intention that I'm setting for the class. So, man, I think I'm very good at starting to answer your question, going somewhere completely different, and then not answering at all.
It's all valuable.
I auditioned with Liana, 3 auditions in. The answer to that question is 3 auditions in.
We never got that answer, did
No,
we?
no, we didn't. And Joe Montaigne directed that episode, and the audition was crazy. So, and it's also, I gotta say this, also, there was a point, like, at first, it was a new technique, a new way of working. A lot of people had never had, like, so the way that it works is I give, like, basically this detailed scenario, and the job of the class is how do you either personalize, or how do you play the given circumstances? How can you have an experience with all this fucking information? And at first, people didn't know how to prep, didn't have a real prep. And then people started to develop a prep. And then like at this point, I gotta say the level in the class is high. There's people who do stuff all the time that I'm like, I don't know that I could do that. Fully don't know that I could do that. And then a part of me, like, I'm not gonna lie, there's some insecurity that comes up. Like, what do you mean your students can do things you can't do?
It's amazing.
But the thing is, I mean, we're built different. We're different actors. Realistically, some of the things, like, we're just different. We have a different essence, a different texture. Like,
isn't that a great thing to think about for every aspect of this? Like, when you don't get the role, hey, they have a different texture. Those people have a different texture. Maybe I don't have that texture, or maybe I wasn't showing that texture.
Or maybe they just goofed. No, I'm kidding.
Now, you're sitting with me today, and people are watching your big scene in Criminal Minds all over America right now. And you're saying it's one of the most fulfilling experiences on a job that you've ever had. So you go home tonight, you start hearing from people that want to put you in things. Tell us how you approach that now.
Dude, I hope this hypothetical gets realized, first off.
Well, of course.
Well, yeah, okay.
But I want to, the question I'm asking is, what we heard in this episode is that you kind of weren't liking the game.
Yeah.
You kind of changed it in a way, and you were winning the game. Now, this may be a new level of winning. How are you going to deal with that?
I'm not going to.
That's a good way.
Yeah. I'm really into, I mean, I go through phases of life of different parts of importance. And right now, I just walk around slowly without my phone and try to feel deeply into presence. And I think this is so not your question at all, but I think that like I've been thinking of depth as like a dimension, and in that dimension, you have access to everything. And so I've been trying to focus on feeling into that dimension, but that dimension has nothing to do with thoughts. It's about feeling and depth and sense. So that's all.
So you're saying this doesn't have anything to do with the answer to the question, but it does. You're trying to go deeper in your life,
deeper into present, like deeper into feeling, deeper into presence, deeper into like there's things that I want, but what's gonna happen with that's gonna happen with that, and I'm interested to see it and experience it. I would like to approach the things that I want without this like clinging tension. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, what I hoped intended with Criminal Minds to happen was like, I mean, look, I want to work, man. I'm in my, I'm not a boy anymore. Like I need to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like I want to go from thing to thing.
Yeah.
I want to teach and I want to go from thing to thing. That's so I don't know. It's interesting too. It's very hard for me to gauge like who sees it, who doesn't see it.
Yeah.
If anybody's seen it.
Right.
I don't know who has Paramount Plus, bro. I don't know what that is.
But don't you think that
Are you gonna leave that in?
Yeah,
You can.
definitely.
Great. Okay.
Don't you think that people who are looking for people see this stuff?
Who's looking for people?
I mean, casting directors.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't know.
I don't
actually
know either.
Don't know. Like, I would have never expected my manager to have watched that thing. I actually don't know. But I will say this: at this juncture, I'm gonna keep showing up. Like, what I cared about. I remember when I did Waves. Calvin's a friend of mine. He kind of got me that movie, and I remember feeling so jealous that he had like a real body of work. He had like he had films that he did when he was this age, and a film he did this age, and he's the lead, and like, you know, like maybe his kids watch this. There's a body of work there. I was like, what's my body of work? 2,000 Vimeo tapes? Yeah, like what are my kids gonna watch? Right. David Garelik Ryan scene 1.
Why does it have to be funny? That was a good poignant moment.
Nah, because it is funny. That's the point.
But I get what you're saying here.
But I'm just saying that I feel like I'm starting to have a body of work.
Yeah.
Even this podcast is a time capsule.
Yes.
My intention, like there were a lot of things like as I'm coming over, like I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, but like none of it's real.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to see, I'm curious to see what comes out.
Yeah.
And it'll be a time capsule.
Yes.
Of this time in my life.
Yes.
Because something interesting happened yesterday and I remember specifically, and now I'm here.
Yes.
And I remember like the first time I listened to your podcast, like, you know, it's surreal that a year and a half later I get to do this with you. Yeah. Like I remember when I invited you to the WP show.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, it would be so fucking cool if Peter, the host of Back to One, comes to my play. I can't believe I know him, like we've exchanged some DMs and I actually know him well enough to even ask.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that I can have this conversation and feel like,
yeah. Well, I want you to come back on and I want you to talk about how you've changed in this work. And how you're approaching it differently then.
Yeah.
David Garelik, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love this.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.